Everybody, thanks so much for joining us this afternoon. Just wanted to indicate that now all of the bills that we passed this week with respect to the budget, the bills pertaining to the state-related universities, Pitt, Penn State, Temple, Lincoln, in addition to the Penn Vet School, have all been signed by both the Senate and the House and will be going to the governor's desk. And also on Wednesday, since the bills were originally House bills, both the budget supplement of about $6 billion plus the fiscal code bill were signed by the House. I believe they were signed by the Senate yesterday and have also gone to the governor's desk. We urge the governor's responsible action in signing those bills. We think that they are important to the proper functioning of government in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. As many of you know, we passed our third full budget right before the holidays. It's been about $30.26 billion. The governor line item vetoed about a little over $6 billion from that particular budget. As you also know, he did sign into law the federal pass-through dollars of about $24 billion and signed into law about $23 billion of the state dollars. We are at a point now where and have been at this point for some time, where we just need to finalize the 2015-2016 budget. And we need to do it in a responsible manner. The budget supplement that is going to the governor's desk, along with the fiscal code, do just that. As you know, it is a $30.025 billion spend. It does not require tax increases. It increases basic education funding by $150 million over last year and increases Ready to Learn block grant of $50 million over last year. Now, the governor did sign into law the Ready to Learn block grant line when he signed in most of 1460 in December. But combined, it's about a $200 million increase in just those two lines. When we signed today the state-related bills, as you know, the increases for Pitt, Penn State, Temple, and the Penn Vet School are 5% increases over last year. And the increase for Lincoln University is a 7% increase over last year. That represents $78 million more dollars than what was enacted last year. Overall, the budget supplement, along with the budget that was passed in December, represents a total of about a 3% increase. The rate of inflation in the United States for the year 2015 was about 0.5%, less than 1% of rate of growth. It is imperative that all the schools be open. These are record level fundings for state dollars going to public education. We have heard both the governor and some others actually look for the crisis and chaos of school closures. It's completely unnecessary. This is record level funding. It utilizes in the fiscal code the commission formula that was decided by a bipartisan commission. 15-0 votes were in favor of that formula. This is the responsible thing to do. The 15-16 budget needs to be finalized. We were very appreciative that we picked up, as you saw, 13 of our Democratic colleagues' votes. We think that many more of our Democratic colleagues, many of us who are good friends, very professional, understand the need to close the 15-16 budget. This is a responsible budget. It's actually in many ways a very exceptional budget, and we hope that the governor does the right thing and signs the budget supplement, the fiscal code, and each of the bills related to the state-related universities, Pitt, Penn State, Lincoln, Temple, and Penn Vet. I'm glad to take any questions that you have. Yes, sir.
Should the governor follow through on his promise to veto these bills, how would that impact your negotiating stance going into 16-17?
You cannot begin to negotiate 16-17 until you close 15-16. There was a deficit, as you know, when we took over from Governor Rendell, about a $4 billion deficit. What you do is you look at each budget as it comes to you. You cannot look at 16-17 until you close 15-16. The lower your spend in 15-16 will improve your position in 16-17. And until you close 15-16, you can't have an honest look at the 16-17 projections. You have to close 15-16. Next question, please. Yes, sir.
Are you ready then to cut this budget by 5%? Because $1.5 billion to $30 billion is 5%. Are you willing to cut 5% across the board or in other line items if you're not willing to raise taxes?
What's in front of us right now is the governor signing 15-16. The 15-16 budget needs finalized. You cannot begin to negotiate 16-17 until the 15-16 budget is closed. And what we did do is we put the budget supplement on the governor's desk. We think that the governor should sign the budget supplement in the fiscal code, and that needs to be closed before we move forward.
Mike, the governor's office says
Yes.
there's a $2 billion structural deficit in this budget. Do you concede that that is correct, and what do you propose to fix it?
The 15-16 budget is completely balanced.
Are you willing to cut the 16-17 budget if the governor signs this?
The 15-16 budget has to be signed, and the figures with respect to 16-17 are in fact better than what the governor is indicating, but you have to close the 15-16 budget. The lower your spend in a responsible budgeting process needs to close the 15-16 budget. Is there any other questions? Charlie? Go ahead, Charlie.
I would just like to ask maybe a different way about 16-17. Do you believe, regardless of what the size of that deficit is going to be, do you believe that there will be a need to raise taxes in 16-17? Have you kind of resigned yourself to that reality? And do you think that it's going to have to happen?
The 15-16 budget needs to close. We can do that at a 30.025 spend. If we do that, we will have closed the gap even more significantly for 16-17. There are going to be a variety of options on the table once the 15-16 budget's closed, but you have to close that budget. If there's no other questions on that on that fact, I'll be glad to take. Yes.
Do you agree that there is then a problem moving forward financially? That you may close the books on 15-16 the way you want, but there still is an issue, is there not? As the governor is saying.
Here's the interesting thing, and I haven't heard it from anyone in the media. If we would have passed the $30.8 billion budget, the interesting thing about that is you would have exacerbated any structural deficit by $1.4 billion. You cannot increase discretionary spendings, including the Department of Community and Economic Development, with all the walking around money brought back into it, and then actually be serious about closing any quote-unquote gap. The fact of the matter is, if we would have done the $30.8 billion budget, we would have been adding $1.4 billion onto any gap with respect to 16-17. The key thing for 16-17 is that you shouldn't be adding or growing spending on top of whatever the gap might be between expenditures and revenues. We'll have a better picture of what the revenues will look like because for the last four budgets, revenues have always come in higher than what we projected them to be. And in fact, for the last four budgets under Governor Corbett, every single budget was actually, we had more revenue than we had expenditures. And they all came back in with surpluses that could be used for the following year. You get that picture for 16-17 as we complete 15-16. Now, to have taken the additional $700 million that the governor wanted would have, in 15-16, that would have equated to $1.4 billion total because you would have had $700 million in 15-16 and an additional $700 million in 16-17, adding $1.4 billion on top of whatever your gap is. Solving for any deficit, we'll see whether where it is and what that it's going to be, is akin to algebraic equation. You're solving for X. But if you are going to ask for increased spending above and beyond whatever your gap is, If you are going to do that, you are exacerbating the structural deficit. So here's the thing. There has been disingenuity about the issue that's in front of us. The governor has called for, I believe, a $33.3 billion budget for 16-17. You do not need a $33.3 billion budget to have a structurally sound budget for 16-17. Closing 15-16 does, it allows us to have an honest discussion about what's really in front of us for 16-17, because the structural deficit was never a part of the objective for 15-16. What we've learned from 15-16, despite the request for a $20 billion or a 20% personal income tax increase, a 10% sales tax increase, and an expansion of the sales tax by about $2 billion, is that none of it was necessary for 15-16 to have a balanced budget, and in addition to provide for growth in spending on education from pre-K to higher ed of about $300 million, and we were able to do it without increasing taxes. Keep in mind, when the governor signed into law special education funding, Social Security payments to schools, transportation to schools, mandated costs to the pension systems, every one of those lines is an education line, as you well know. Ready to Learn block grant, all those lines included significant increases already. The Ready to Learn block grant had a $50 million increase. Special education, I believe, had a $20 to $25 million increase that he signed into law. We were able to do that $300 million in increase to education, including the 5% increase to the state system, 5% increase to the community colleges, 5% increase to state relateds. That's all money above and beyond any structural deficit. We were able to do all that without a single tax increase. Now we're going to have to carry that all over to 16-17. All those dollars are going to be carried to 16-17. They do add to the cost of 16-17. You're going to have to look at what the revenues are that are coming in, and you'll be able to do that once you finalize 15-16 and once we see what the revenues are that come in for the rest of the year.
If you don't get it, are you willing to cut?
Look, here's the key. The key is you have to close 15-16, and the question is why will the governor not sign the budget supplement for 15-16? That's the question.
Well, the governor said he can't trust the legislature to do it. He believes that you guys went back on your word. Did you go back on your word, or is he?
The governor had a 15-16 budget that could be closed without increasing sales taxes and personal income taxes, while at the same time increasing education and keeping schools open. And the key thing is to close the 15-16 with a budget supplement and the fiscal code.
With all due respect, that's not what I asked. The governor believes that you guys went back on your word. Did you, or is he listening to you?
The caucus in both chambers wanted to not increase sales and personal income taxes, which is true for most of our Democratic colleagues. We were able to have a balanced budget without increasing taxes. You saw the budget; it had 33 votes in the Senate and 115 votes in the House. But the Senate didn't end up passing that. What the Senate passed and put on the governor's desk was the House's $30.2 billion budget. That's what the Senate passed. That was the balanced budget that everybody was looking for and that we passed and put on the governor's desk. Correct.
Have you had, when's the last negotiations you had with the governor?
I had a luncheon with the governor last week and said that the key was that there would not be additional revenues for 15-16. We had to keep schools open. We had to be responsible about the 15-16 budget. And the key thing was that we had increased education spending by $200 million for K through 12, $150 million in basic education line, $50 million in the Ready to Learn block grant. We also did 5% increases for the state relateds, Pitt, Penn State, Temple, Lincoln, and Penn Vet. We also have 5% increases for the state system and 5% increases for community colleges, and we did it all without increasing taxes.
He said he would he would veto the budget you guys just passed. He hasn't done so yet. Have you had a conversation with him since? Has he indicated to you what he's going to do?
I know that we have had staff level discussions, and I'm hopeful that the governor's going to do the right thing and sign the budget. Hey, with that, thank you very much, everybody. I certainly appreciate it.